And joining us for more on tonight's topic is Gabriel Hammond, an investment advisor at Cumberland Advisors, and Laura Mattia, founder of the Women's Money Empowerment Network. She is a principal at New Approach Financial Planning, and she's also teaching finance at Rutgers Business School and will be teaching personal finance at the University of South Florida. And thank you both for joining us tonight. You know, I'm thinking about that commercial on TV right now where the couple, ask every conceivable question about the car that they're going to buy and the other purchases. But they go see their advisors, and the advisor says, we want to switch you to something else, and they look at each other and just go, yes.
It's a problem. It's a big problem. People don't know the questions to ask. So they just say yes because they don't know what else to say.
And is this new rule going to change that reality for your normal investor?
I hope so.
Well, the Department of Labor has issued a new rule that advisors who are giving advice with respect to people's retirement accounts, 401ks, and IRAs must be held to a fiduciary standard, the highest standard in the industry, which means that the client's interest must be put first before the advisor's interest.
Now, you gave us some information that really kind of breaks down the impact of what the system is now. That you're saying that on a yearly basis, that the fact that some advisors don't always do what's in their client's best interest is costing about $17 billion a year in losses.
And up.
It's incredible. Yeah. The White House Council of Economic Advisors released a study that revealed that conflicted advice with respect to retirement accounts is costing retirement savers $17 billion a year, 17 billion with a B. Now, that equates to a decrease in 1% in returns every year for retirement savers.
And it means that their total nest egg is 25% less than it otherwise would be.
Right.
Over a 35-year period.
And that's because of fraud. But it's not just fraud. It's because there also is a certain level of incompetency in this business as well. So one of the things that this regulation is going to do is going to require financial advisors to become competent. In other words, they can't just give you any old advice. They need to know what they're saying. They need to understand your situation. They need to understand if it's appropriate. They need to understand, they need to do the due diligence on what they're advising. Otherwise, they could get in trouble. So
I bet, you know what people who are watching this are saying at home right now? You should know what you're doing. You, the investor, should know.
You would be surprised. Oh, the consumer?
That consumers, us, the investors, should not be taking for granted what your financial advisors or brokers are saying anyway.
This is true, but I can tell you as a comprehensive financial advisor that many people come to me and they say, I trust you, just do it. And I always tell them, don't just trust me, ask questions. Understand what I'm recommending to you. You shouldn't just trust people. But unfortunately, as you stated, some people they'll ask more questions when they're buying a car or when they're getting their hair cut than they will when they're making this kind of decision.
Gabriel, there was a comment in Kate's story that was really kind of disconcerting with the financial advisors saying that middle-class Americans are so in debt that these changes really don't make a difference.
Well, over the last few decades, healthcare costs have increased almost exponentially. Costs for higher education have increased almost exponentially, and that has impacted the millennial generation and the generations that will follow because of those high costs. So how can the millennial generation save for retirement if they're still paying off student loan debt?
And let me ask you also something, Laura, that there is almost a perception that, women have become very accomplished in the workplace. They are doing everything and they're running our households. But your position, and you are going to be teaching this at USF, that women don't take as much responsibility or not involved as much in the family's personal finances as they should be.
Yes, and there are a lot of reasons for that. But just think about the time in the day. There's not enough time in the day to take care of the children and go to work and do all these kinds of things. So oftentimes they delegate the financial responsibilities to the husband, and that's fine as long as the husband remains there. But what happens?
What he's doing.
And knows what he's doing. But what happens when if something happens to him, if he dies? I mean, the truth is we live longer than you guys, and most likely the woman will be on her own at some point without the financial skills because she hasn't developed them over the course of her lifetime.
Gabriel, these new rules are fine, but what still needs to be accomplished?
Well, these new rules, it's a double-edged sword in that the new regulatory compliance measures with which broker-dealers and registered investment advisors will have to comply with may increase the cost of doing business, and that could be
Passed down
to consumers.
Can I just say also, this rule only requires advisors who are advising on IRAs, not on taxable savings accounts. And that's an issue because a lot of folks, they'll sell something, they'll sell property, and that money is earmarked for retirement. So they think that that money is being managed the same way. It's not.
Right, because it's really important to point out there are two different kinds of advisors. There are investment advisors that you said that have a stricter fiduciary responsibility, but there are broker-dealers who don't have to be as concerned about the impact of the investment on the consumer.
They have rules. It's called the suitability standard, and they have rules that as long as they go up to this line and they don't cross over that line, that's fine. With the fiduciary standard, there are no lines. You just better do what you're supposed to do.
But Gabriel, how many consumers really understand the difference between the investment advisor and the broker and the rules that both have to follow?
Alan, the truth is very few consumers know about the two sets of rules with respect to registered investment advisors and individuals associated with broker-dealers. So I think this new rule coming from the Department of Labor will be of benefit to retirement savers.
And Laura, who's fighting this, if anyone?
Who's fighting against it?
Are there institutional opposition
Oh,
to this?
absolutely. All the large players, the banks, the wirehouses, the insurance companies, now to be held at a fiduciary standard. It used to be that a consumer could just take you to arbitration if something went wrong, if you didn't follow the suitability standard. Now, we're opening it up that the consumer can actually take you to court in front of a judge if you do not behave as a fiduciary. So there's tremendous liability exposure, and now they're expected to behave a certain way. They're expected to do their due diligence. Some people may not even have the skills. A lot of advisors were once hired to sell products, are now expected to know how to give financial advice. So it's turning the industry on its head, really.
Okay, and we'll have to leave it there. I want to thank you both for joining us tonight.